Welcome to the Abed Chronicles, the most authentic podcast of the year. Join us on this emotional roller coaster as we relive the past and look ahead to the future. The Abed Chronicles, 10 voices, 1 podcast, and a lifetime of stories.
But it just froze.
All right. Welcome to the first episode of the Abed Chronicles. We're so excited to be here with you guys. It's Abed Chronicles, 10 voices, 1 podcast, and a lifetime of stories. This is our first episode. So in our first episode, we want to get to know everybody. So we're going to go around and introduce everybody, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about themselves. All right. So everybody's on the screen, and then we have 3 of us here in person in a different room. So first, hey, Jim, you're the oldest brother. Can you tell us a little about yourself and some of your background so that people get to know you?
Absolutely. I'm number 1 of 11. I was firstborn. My legal name is Najib, but I go by Jim because when I was a kid, I worked at my dad's restaurant, and they called my dad Jim, and they called me Little Jimmy. So when I became Big Jimmy, I just used the name Jimmy or Jim. I have 2 kids. I have a son his name is Jason, that's married, and his wife's name is Victoria, and I have a daughter, and her name is Monica, and my wife's name is Debbie. I've been married for 39 years, and I've been blessed with a gift from God. I had a kidney transplant, and it made me very humble, and I'm very grateful to Heavenly Father for the blessings that He has bestowed on me.
That's awesome, man. Welcome, number 1. Jim is the oldest out of the 11. And he'll tell you a story, but he swears he used to change our diapers, and I don't believe him because I don't remember that. You guys remember that? I don't remember that.
I remember a double dip guy. I'm not going to mention who, but I remember a double dip guy, and I'll mention that later on in the podcast.
All right. So we got brother 2, Faisal. Can you give us a little introduction?
Hey, how y'all doing? Faisal, Abdel, Virginia. I'm married to a lady for 39 years. Her name is Tam. Got 4 kids, 6 grandkids. Retired Department of Transportation. We just run around here in South Boston, Halifax. Keeping up with the grandkids and helping the kids run their businesses.
That's awesome. And they call you the black sheep of the family?
Yeah. My parents don't like me, so that's the way it is.
Well, we're going to get them on here one day, and they're going to tell us if they like you or not.
Is it your parents or our parents?
Yeah, whose parents don't like you? Is it your parents don't like you or our parents don't like you?
Your parents don't like me.
All right. And then brother number 3 is Jamal. And can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yep, my name is Jamal after Jalil. I'm brother number 3. Been married 38 years. Got 2 kids, Linda and Miriam. 2 grandkids, Layla and Jannah. I've been married to Summer, is my wife. I'm retired from the cable company. I help out my wife once in a while at the wing place. Was born in overseas in Jerusalem. I'm the only kid out of 11 was born overseas. I got married in 1986. And we have a good life here, alhamdulillah, So I got 9 brothers and 2 sisters, 8 brothers and 2 sisters. And we're starting this broadcast so everybody knows who we are.
Man, that's exciting, man. I swear. All right. So now it's going to be brother number 5. And Todd, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why they call you the storyteller?
Well, I don't tell stories much.
But yeah, Todd's kind of my nickname. My actual name is Majid. That's a story. That'll be for a different day for the podcast. But I go by Todd, and married 30 years. I have three kids, 2 boys and a girl, Hannah, Hattie, and Tadic. And it's great to get our story out there because I think we have a unique story. And so I currently work retail at 7-Eleven. Thank heaven for 7-Eleven. So
Man, they're giving a shout out to 7-Eleven. They a sponsor or something?
maybe we can get their logo up there.
I know we're gonna have to talk to them. So Todd's nickname is Storyteller. We're going to call it Half Truths, but we're going to stick with Storyteller for now.
It's full truths depending on who you ask.
All right, so I'm brother 6. I'm Retha. I'm AKA the middle child. I'm a high school principal. Been married for 23 years. Have one daughter, Amna, who is 17 years old, and my wife is Nihad. And we have a dog named Benji, who's around here somewhere. And other than that, we're just so excited to get together once a week with my siblings and talk about everything that's happened to us growing up, and maybe other topics as they come along. So just excited for everybody to be here. Now, brother 7, Sam, the man, the only Bronco fan.
Yeah. So brother number 7, Samir, a.k.a. Sam. My birth name is Samir Najih Abed. I go by Sam because it was easy, because you take the SAMIR, cut the IR off, and you get Sam. So I've been married for 22 years. Will be this August will be 22 years. I have 3 kids. I have a 20-year-old daughter. I have a 20-year-old daughter, Yasmin, 17-year-old son, Wally, and my youngest daughter is Amira, 13. I've been with Panera Bread for over 20 years doing that. I am not retired like my other 3 brothers, but I will one day. I'll be retired. And I don't have any grandkids. Alhamdulillah.
So. One day, though. Inshallah, one day.
Not yet.
Yeah. All right. So that's brother 7. Now we're going to get to brother 8. And his name is Joe, a.k.a. the car guy.
Hey, guys. I'm Joe, one of 8. My nickname is Joe, but my legal name is Hatem Najir Abdul Jalil, or Abed. We have short, either long or short. Been in the car business a long time, 15 years. I'm a girl dad. I have 3 girls, 17, 16, and 13. Married 18 years. Enjoy family time. And my nickname is Joe because I used to ask people if have they seen Joe, and they were like, Joe who? I'm like, Joe Mama. So I got the name as Joe. So I use it for my work name all the time for just easier. And my other nickname is Rico Suave. So I used to.
That was back in your single day.
Back in the single day.
Yeah.
So now, I kind of settled down a little bit for now. So, and we're starting a podcast, which is great. And I enjoy seeing everybody every morning that Sunday. It's like going to church, but you're staying at home.
And so my parents had 9 boys and 2 girls. They had 8 straight boys, and they kept on trying for a girl. So you're lucky enough to be introduced to our first sister. Wow. They kept on trying. This is a special one because they kept on trying. It took them almost 9 tries, over 9 tries. Melissa, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Melissa. I'm married. I have 4 kids. I have a 20-year-old son, Muhammad, soon to be 20, a daughter, 17, soon to be 17, Mesa, Maya's 14, and Haneen's 13. I've been married for May, I think it's 23 years. I've been working for Walmart for going on 29 years. And
29 years of Walmart? Wow.
old. You look like you're 16.
I don't know. How old were you when you started Walmart?
Wally World.
16.
You were 16?
Wow.
Wow. You should get some kind of like plaque or trophy or something.
No.
But, all right, so Melissa, explain to us, you're married to who and
Yeah, I'm married to Marwan. He's from, we got engaged in Palestine, and then we got married here in Ohio.
Awesome. Well, so that was our first born sister, and they tried again for a little girl, and then all of a sudden, Big Sophie came out. So, brother number 9, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Sophie, 42.
Hey, you're 42?
Yeah.
Wow.
How old are you?
Wow. I'm 49.
I work for Open Lane Car Auction, and that's about it.
You have any kids?
Nope.
You married?
Nope. Nothing.
Single?
Single.
Sophie,
Do you have any dogs?
I got 1 dog left.
1 dog left?
Yep.
tell us about yourself, Sophie.
I got 1 dog.
What do they call it? What's your nickname,
Sophie.
No, what's your nickname? Everybody.
The fixer, the handyman?
A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. So growing up, they used to call Sophie half pint, but now he's a full gallon. So he's all right. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about the golden child. She's going to introduce herself. Sister number 2, sibling number 11, Shadia.
Hey guys, so I'm Shadia. I'm 39 years old. I've been married for 14 years. I have a daughter that's 9, a daughter that's 12, a son that's 9. So, my parents tried and tried and tried. They had all these kids, but they didn't get the perfect one until number 11. So then they stopped. They're like, haven't done that. So they're like, we're done. We got the child we wanted. And so then they stopped. My mom got her tubes tied. I'm the last. I'm the youngest. I'm the favorite. I'm an English teacher.
We know. Yeah. You're the only one that got their college paid for. You're the only one that got a car. You're the only one. What else?
You got races.
I'm sorry, but that's what happens when you're the favorite. I was the only one left at home. So yes, I got those things done, but I was the only one left at home at that time. You guys all left. I was with my parents. So I'm an English teacher. I teach English, middle school English. And that's me.
That's awesome. Well, good job, golden child.
I think my parents were trying for another boy and the girl came.
Hey, Jim, can you tell us or tell everybody why some of us go by Abed and some of us go by Abdul Jalil?
Yes. So when my father, when I was born, and my his first cousin Hassan was here. He worked for the State Department at the time. They said, hey, Abdul Jalil is not really, it's too long. Why don't you just use Abed, Abed? And, my dad was, he was a young guy. I think he was like 18 years old or something when he came to this country. And so for me, he used Abed. But then when my brother Faisal was born, he was a little bit more, I guess, mature. And, he didn't want to use Abed, because that really wasn't our name. Our name is Abdul Jalil. So for Faisal and Jamal and Wally, he used Abdul Jalil. And that's our legal first name. Now, Abdul, is like Mech, if you say Mech, McDonald or Mech, whatever. But Jalil is our great-grandfather. His name is Jalil. So if I wanted to say my real name, it would be Najib Najih Jamil Abdul Jalil, because that's kind of the real name, the real long name. So I go by Jim Abed, just makes it simpler. But that's the reason why some of us have Abed and some of us have Abdul Jalil. It's because my dad, when he kind of, when he came, he was very naive. He didn't understand the system, and he listened to his cousins who had been here for a little bit, and they kind of said, really should use Abed. So there you go. But my dad uses both, because I have to, when I do his my chart, he's got one my chart for Abed and one my chart for Abdul Jalil. So anyways, that's kind of
but But Jim, his brothers all have different names, last names.
Well, like Ami Ahmed uses Abed. Ami Kazim uses our great grandfather's name, Abdul Majid. But Ami Abed, I think he uses Jamil, right? I'm not
No.
sure. Faisal, what is Ami Abed's name? Last name?
Abed.
Yeah, he uses
Abed.
Abed Jalil.
Abdul Jalil?
Yeah, he uses,
Okay.
he
Yeah.
uses
So
Jamil.
Ami Kazim uses Abdul Majid only because he wanted to be different, and he used my great grandfather's name. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but three of my my grandfather's father and two of his brothers originally came here, and back in the 1900s, and they worked at a steel mill, and at the steel mill they had an accident. One was killed, and one was maimed, and they after the brother was killed, they all went back to Palestine at the time. So originally, on my father's side, they were here, and they went under the name of El Khatib. When I looked up their history, they went under the name El Khatib because one of the Dar Khatib is actually our grandfather's father. So that's kind of how things change. Now, like I said, when you get to Ellis Island, they always try to shorten your name or Americanize your name, a little bit. But yeah, and again, our grandfather on my mom's side came here when I was doing the research. He was here, and as soon as he came here, he was drafted in World War One, and he served as a infantry, and he was active duty at the time. And then and it's weird on his and I'll show this one day. I'll bring it up on the screen. But on his draft paper, it says he's white, but then it says if African American, tear off the tab. So there's a little tab at the bottom of the corner of the sheet that you're supposed to tear off if that person is African American, which really surprised me back in the day that they would distinguish between African Americans and white people. But the other part of that is he was sick. He got sick from different things. For the second time, World War II, he did get drafted, but he did not. They didn't take him only because of his illness. He wasn't well.
Yeah.
But the reason we're here is because my mom was born an American citizen, and when my dad married my mom, he was able to come here and bring his family here.
Yeah. And and so for everybody who doesn't know, really our mom never really got to know her dad because when she was born, he was here in the Army, and it wasn't until I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago that we actually found his grave in North Carolina, and Joe took my parents, Mecklenburg, and Joe took them up there to.
Well, I went first originally, and met the people he lived with, and they're in their 80s. They're at the time he was like a kid. He remembers my grandfather coming there, giving them coins and sitting on their lap, and he lived there because he traveled as a salesperson.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, I took my parents to visit the grave, and we put flowers and all that stuff. So it was a big moment for my mom because that was the first time she's ever.
For your mom or our mom?
Well, I guess it was our mom. For our mom, because that's the first time she's actually ever got close to her.
Yeah.
Yes.
So kind of that was a little bit of family history, but I guess one topic that we want to tell everybody about right now is we're called the Abed 11, but you only see 10 people, and so we want to kind of everybody can go around and talk about it. But our brother Wally, he was brother number 4, and so he passed away in a tragic accident in 1989.
87.
87.
87. Sorry,
July
87.
5th of 87. Yeah.
87, right after he graduated high school. So, we want to make sure that we, in our conversations, we make sure we remember Wally. We try to add him in our graphics. Thank you, Shadia, for creating that graphic. And, in 1987, I was born in 1974. So I was, still a little kid, but I remember that day that a customer came to our father's store and told us there was an accident down the road, and didn't tell us who was in the accident, and we're in the back of that truck.
Yeah, we were, both of us.
Yeah, and I think Jamal was driving the truck to go see who was in the accident and how we could help. Only found out it was our own brother that had fatally died in that accident. So that's what I remember. And it was really tragic because I didn't really get a chance to know. And I always wonder what it would be like right now if Wally was here. How things would be different, or I'd be the same, or we had kids or married. So I know it was tragic. So I just wanted to throw that out there if anybody else has anything to say.
Wally was just full of life. I mean, he loved to joke around.
Hard-working.
He loved to joke around. And, he got involved in a lot of different things. He was in the Farmers of America. I still have his coat. I still have the things that the coroner gave me after he passed on. I still carry those things. And I gave his high school ring to my brother, Joe. When he came to see me, he asked for it. I gave it to him. But I still have his belongings. And Wally stayed with me a lot. Wally stayed with me here in Fairfax. And then we bought a house in Stafford. We actually had a room for him. And, he was really a joyful guy. But this is God's plan, for these things. I know we it's hard to accept, but God has plans for us. And Wally fulfilled his obligation here on earth. And he was a good guy. He tried to help as much as he could. And, I love him to death. I think that Wally would be probably a good man if he had, if that wasn't part of God's plan. He would be a great man today, probably married with kids, and probably still joking around and full of life.
Yeah, he was a hard-working person.
Yeah.
He had 3 or 4 jobs at one time. King's Dominion, Food Line. He wasn't even supposed to go to work that day. The Food Line,
Right.
And they called him in. It was his day off, and he went to work. And my parents told him, "Don't go to work. Come with us." And he went to work anyways. And then on the way home, that's what happened. He had a terrible accident, but he's with Allah now, so that's he's in a great place.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that was, we never expect when somebody dies, like especially somebody young like Wally, it really puts an impression on you all your life. I mean, I still to this day remember I was working and I got a call from my wife saying, "Hey, Wally was involved in an accident. They didn't think he was going to make it." And first thing I did was call Mary Washington Hospital. And they said, "Well, we don't have a Wally here or Waleed here." And so I called the store, and Faisal answered the phone, and he was telling me, he was crying, and I said, "Oh my God." I mean, I was at work. I was the manager at work. I couldn't leave right away. And then Tammy got on the phone and says, "Jim, you really need to get here as soon as you can." And the issue was my parents did not know. So I needed to try to find my parents. I know they went to Doc Hassan or somewhere. They were visiting in Northern Virginia somewhere. So
Dr. Trish.
Yeah. So I drove around. I went to, my cousin that works for 7-Eleven. She was running a store there in near Tice's Corner. And I went to her because she, that's her uncle. And I said, "Hey, can you please, I need to find my parents. Can you please try to find them?" And she called around and stuff. But who took me to work was I was so distraught that this young lady that worked with me, her name was Barbara. She did not want me to drive. She probably saved my life. She actually drove me in my car. And she took me all the way to Spotsylvania at the time. I mean, she took me all these different places to look for my parents. And then she took me to Spotsylvania at the time. And I just want to thank her. She was a godsend at the time because my mind was not. I was I couldn't stand. I hit the wall as I was talking, and when I found out that he had passed, I hit that wall that was next to the phone so hard that everybody looked at me and they were like, what's going on? And I had to I had to call the one of the guys to call and come and take over for me because I couldn't leave right away. So it was a horrible day that day. And it was almost, I couldn't believe it. But Allah Yarhamha, Auntie Salva is the one that came in and really did a lot for us at that time. And we really, Allah Yarhamha, like I said, she did a lot. She, comforted my parents. She took care of, at the funeral, she took care of the bathing and doing everything that, she could possibly do. She was really the one that took the reins at the time because we were all distraught. And it just was a horrible day. But the only thing I remember, and I hope Todd remembers this, that Todd said that night that he saw Wally after he passed, that he saw Wally sitting at the edge of the bed in his room because they were roommates at the time. And I don't know, Todd, if you want to share that or not.
I remember that, but maybe one of the other episodes we could talk about that.
Okay.
But Jim, so what happened was that wait a second, Wally didn't want to work in the store. He wanted to work other places because he knew Todd was taking all the money from the register.
So Jim, were you the one that had to break it to my parents?
No. They because I made that call. They found out and they came with Auntie Salva. So evidently Auntie Salva was able to get a hold of them and they came home. My parents were in shock. I mean, my parents were in shock. I was expecting my mom to be really like, I don't know how my mom gets. I mean, she has panic attacks and that type of thing. But they, I think she was in so much shock that she couldn't believe it, and especially Wally. I mean, I don't want to say this. Wally was just a special character. I mean, I loved him to death. He lived with me in Stafford. He lived with me here at Fairfax during the summer, and he would work. And he worked like different places, and so did Jamal. Jamal lived with me for a little while, and he worked at the Chinese restaurant. And one day, my dog Bravo attacked him because he didn't recognize him from the Chinese smell on him. But anyway, we'll tell these stories later. But just to tell you that,
I mean, I remember you telling me that because I was only 3 at the time. I was going to turn 3, so I don't remember much from Wally Al-Ahmed, but I remember you telling me my parents were never the same. You told me that my parents changed after Wally's death and they were never the same. So I really never knew my parents before that because I don't remember. I was only 3, and I remember you telling me one time that my parents were never the same. Of course, after losing a kid, that's tough. But Wally, I think, was 19 at the time.
Yeah, he was 19. And high school. Yeah, and he was involved in a lot of things. I mean, really, really a lot of things. I actually found it was so weird about 4 or 5 years later, when I was going to college, I would record my lectures, and I had a tape recorder, and for some reason, I got Wally on there talking about himself and talking about different things. I don't know if anybody ever listened to that, and he liked Cool J. It said Cool J. I don't know what Cool J was. Must be some kind of group that music that he liked to listen to, but he wrote Cool J on there, and I looked for that tape like years later, and I couldn't find it. But I still have all my cassette tapes just for that reason, because it was in the middle of something that he started speaking, and because I had a tape recorder, and he used that tape recorder to record over that. So it was just so weird that he came out of the blue and started speaking. But I beg God. I would drive to work and I would pull over and just bawl and beg God to let me see him just one more time. And when I went at the funeral, they had wrapped him up in white, and they only had this much of his face in. And I just couldn't believe they would cover his face. I said, why did they cover his face for? I mean, why can't we see his face? Because I wanted to see him again. And they said, no, he broke his jaw. So they had to cover it when they wrapped him with a white wrap. they only had this part of him left, so you could see his eyes and his nose because his jaw was broken. And we didn't do they didn't do the embalmment or anything, so that's why he died on a Saturday, I believe, and then Monday they buried him.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jim, what it was, Jim, just a story about it a little bit, but we'll get back to it. But he hit a tree, and then he got thrown out of the car,
Right,
and then the car rolled on top of him.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
we
I
think
remember his
somebody ran him
hair
off the
being
road.
embedded in the windshield. It was
Yeah, we
just
think
amazing.
somebody ran him off the road is what everybody thinks, but not based
Yeah,
on
we
what
don't know that for a fact, but
we don't
yeah,
know for a fact. But yeah,
They
it's
think
bad.
it's a church. They think it's a church bus, Jim. That's what they said.
yeah.
The Coleman?
They think it was the church bus.
Oh, the
that
church
ran him
bus.
over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But just real fast, I know Sam, brother Seven here. He named his firstborn son, his only son, Wally. Can you tell us what made you do that, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So when Wally passed away, I was 12 years old, and I was in the back of that Ranger as well with Reith and Joe. Jamal drove us there, and we pulled up, and the only thing I remember was a sheet covering someone on the street in Wally's car. It was a little Dodge Colt. It was like a tannish color, brownish color Dodge Colt 2-door, and it was there. And then it was pretty shocking to us. But one of the things you always want to remember someone in a good way. And one of the memories of Wally was when he had his car. He always used to take us for a ride around the gas pumps. That was the big thing. And his Dodge Colt, when he got it, he used to take us a ride in the gas pumps. And he used to fill up gas. He didn't like working in the store. It is true. Jamal said he didn't like working in the store. So he would give us a ride in the gas pumps. And in return, we would have to go inside the store and get him the gallon of juice that he liked. So as I got older and stuff, and we got, I got married, and I told my wife, I said, look, if we have a son, I'm gonna name him after my brother, Wally. So my son Waleed was born 17. He'll be 18 in April, and we named him. His name is Waleed, but he goes by Wally. And a story that kind of that I will tell. Wally was like maybe 4 years old, and we went to King David Memorial Cemetery, where Wally and my grandmothers and a lot of our family members are buried. And I said, look, Wally, we're going to go visit your uncle, Wally. So we get to the cemetery, and we do our prayer, and we put flowers down. And he said, hey, Dad, he's like, is Uncle Wally going to come out and see us? And for a little boy that's 4 years old, that doesn't understand what death is. I mean, that was definitely pulled on your heartstrings right there. So that's the story of my son Waleed being named after his Uncle Wally in his memory.
I just thought it was really important because we're called the Abed 11, but it's 10 voices, and so just to make sure that when we're telling stories that we don't forget, and obviously I think everybody from Todd up will have more stories, because it's just hard when you're little and to you go back and think about it. Our relationships are way better as we got older than they were when we were younger, right? So I mean, we had good relationships, but there was a lot more fighting and a lot more things that went on. Where now, as you grow and you mature, you wish you had that time back so you got to know people. So
that was really like a son to me. We took him to King's Dominion, and we really treated him special. He really was a special guy. I just loved. I mean, I loved all my brothers, but Wally. There's 11 of us. Think about all these siblings, but he was a really a special kid, and he worked everywhere he could. And I remember driving. I mean, when I had to move after he passed, because he stayed with us, and we would drive. We drove to 610 there, and you'd see him walking, and because he was walking from work, and he worked like a couple of miles away, and he would walk back home. This is before he drove, and we would pick him up, and then when my father opened up him and my Uncle Joe opened up that restaurant down in Roanoke, they asked me initially before they even start building it, hey, would you go run it? And I really said no, I'm happy here, and I had a good job. So after Wally died, man, I really just wanted to change, and so I ended up moving to Roanoke afterwards.
Faisal, anything on your end?
Yeah, when Wally died, for going down to the lady, I think I was the first. I don't know. I might have been the first one. Me and Tammy might have been the first ones down there, right? There's the guy, I think Paul Black's son, came in and said, an accident down the road. Maybe she can help the ambulance. I think me and Tammy drove down that first. And I think the Madison girl grabbed my before I could get up to the car. She told me. And,
Yeah, you're breaking in and out, buddy.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I got a little blue streak down there, so I don't know what that means, but that, and I know that Jacob don't use Waleed, but that's his middle name. My youngest kid, Jacob Waleed, and we use that middle name in honor of Wally.
That's awesome. I don't think I knew that for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, see, none of us
that's
do
first
that,
time.
so that's awesome, man.
I just want to.
Jim, that night before we left your house,
Yes,
from
we
4th
had
of July weekend, and Wally didn't want nobody to ride with him in the car. He
Yeah,
wanted
I
to
remember.
drive by himself in the car to go
Yep.
home.
I remember that. I remember let me tell you what, we had such a good time. Wally, his appetite was really good. He was eating well. We all had a good time. It was really, we were celebrating 4th of July, and we had a barbecue, and, we were out and really having a great time. Just to show you how blessed we are that God blessed us with that good day. But since the next day was going to be a tragic day for us, but that day, like I said, it was like all of us were having a good time, and mashallah, they were saying that Wally was eating, like my mom told me. So Wally's eating a lot of food. He was like, he never eats that much. So and then just to have that happen. But yeah, I remember there was a little friction after, as we were leaving, that Wally wanted to drive by himself back home. And so he drove, but I just want to tell you something. That day that that he died, I just was so upset, and I couldn't believe it. I actually called Food Line and asked for Wally. I knew he was passed. I mean, but I just wanted to see that maybe
You thought it was a dream. You thought it was a dream, man. So sometimes
man, it was crazy. I couldn't believe it that he'd gone. I mean, he was just this character that was always so live, and I since I'm the oldest, I honestly I treated him just like my son. I would, anything I did, Debbie and I would take him places, even when I was going to college and he was here. I'll just tell you this small story, and I know this is supposed to be for later, but I just, because it's in my mind. So I was at school. I came home, and my buddies, I rented out rooms, and my buddies were here, and they kept saying "Ana Habila," "Ana Habila," and I said, "I wonder why are they saying that?" I said, "Yeah, your brother taught us how to say you're stupid, right?" But he actually turned it around to say that I'm stupid in Arabic. It was just,
they thought they were calling
so hard. Just to show how smart he
they
was.
thought they were calling you stupid, but he taught them to say they were stupid, right?
Yeah, exactly. They all said in Arabic, they were saying, "Hey, I'm stupid. Hey, I'm stupid," but they thought they were saying that I was stupid. So just to show you how he worked, because they told him, "Hey, tell us something bad we could tell," and he told them, "Ana habile," which means I am stupid. And so they all were saying that, and it just to show you, and that's the kind of character he was.
Yeah.
And but I know there's we save this for future podcasts.
Yeah.
But
No,
he was really I just loved him to death.
Yeah. Shadi,
I think yeah, I was just going to preface this. I think we probably should have prefaced it too. We keep talking about the store. We bring up the store, and maybe some people don't know that from, I think, like 1981 to 1999, much of my childhood, my dad had a grocery store. And when they're talking about the store and Wally's accident, the accident only happened, the grocery store was in the country. We were like 30 minutes away from anything, from the banks, from McDonald's, from anything. We were right in the middle of the country. And it was much of a one lane road, and the accident happened not only like about a mile from the store, I would say, right?
Yeah, about a mile, less than that.
Yeah, so he drove 30 minutes from work, and that last mile, that last 3-4 minutes is where the accident happened, where my dad's grocery store was. So I know we keep referencing the store. The store held a big part of my childhood, and that's what they're talking about, the gas pumps and him working at the store. It's this grocery store that my dad and my mom ran for much of my childhood, that we kind of lived in. We got on the bus there, off the bus there. I mean, we had a lot of things happen at that store, and just he drove all that way back from work, and it was only about a mile from the store that it happened.
That night, Wally went to our parents' bedroom, and opened the door and looked at my parents that night. I don't know if y'all guys knew that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. That night he went, because I lived with my parents, me and my wife at the time, and we lived in the back bedroom. And Wally walked through the hallway, went through the other bedroom, and opened the door and looked at my parents, and then closed the door back up. And then went and slept in the new living room by himself.
Wow.
So that's the 4th of July night, right?
Yeah, 4th of July night.
Yeah.
But didn't he stop at the store that morning to see my dad before he went to work?
Yeah, and they told him don't go to work.
Right, I remember.
Yeah, because our house was only about a mile from the store, so it was very close distance.
So, well, obviously, thanks for the history, Shadi, about owning a grocery store, because we talk about the store. So my parents, they owned a grocery store called Baker's Market, because the guy who owned originally the store my parents bought it from was called Mr. Baker. And so it was out in Spotsylvania in the middle of nowhere. We're the only grocery store in about a 25-30 mile radius. And for the most part, we were their employees, and we stayed there for most of our lives working the store. And then we grew up in Spotsylvania, for the majority of us, on 26 acres out in the boonies. And I always think back, I wish I still had that house with the acreage, growing. Like, I wish now there's that house has so many different things, with the acreage and the features it had, like the fruit tree.
Y'all got part of the house.
What's that?
I said a lot of y'all got part of that house in your all's pocket.
Oh boy, come on! It wasn't all that much. If they got anything, it wasn't all that much.
$500.
Yes. So
I do want to say this. Now that was your half. Now my parents moved away when I was still in high school.
Yeah. Okay. What was the reason for it, Jim? Why do they want to get away from you so bad?
No, it's because they bought that store, and my dad was he rented a room, so he would go back and forth to there, and then that school year was going to end. He took everybody and moved out, and since I was going to go to college, and I graduated from Fairfax High School, and I never, although I did come to the store and did visit, I wasn't really a biggest part of the store. But my dad owned restaurants, and Faisal and I, and I think Jamel too, we worked in those restaurants. I mean, ever since I was 8, we worked in those restaurants. I cleaned ashtrays. I took admissions. My dad had one on Arlington that was called the Barrister. And at the weekends, we had a band, and I would take admissions, 75 cents. So I had to learn math really fast and make sure that we were, I collected it. I cleaned ashtrays. But we all worked. I guess what I'm trying to say is part of our culture. We didn't know any, like, for example, that was our duty, our responsibility to help our dad out no matter what, And, but we worked, and then we had the Tremont restaurant later on that was the last restaurant he had before he bought Baker's Market.
Yeah. So just to kind of, we'll talk about a lot more in different episodes, but just one thing I want to get to real fast is because I know Faisal had mentioned that his son's middle name was Waleed. So, I think a lot of people don't know, like in the Middle Eastern culture, for the most part, your middle name is your dad's first name. And so all of our middle names is Najih, right? And then so my daughter's middle name is Retha. So I thought, that was kind of interesting when you tell people about middle names, and people like middle names, and then everybody has the same middle name.
Right.
Yeah. So
the same thing with my kids. I have my son is Jason Najib Abed, and my daughter's name is Monica Najib Lynn Abed, because my wife wanted to add Lynn to her last name, so Najib Lynn Abed. So it's kind of weird, yeah, you're right. It's, and like I said, it is something in the Middle East, because we're very tribal people. I mean, we know what tribe we come from. For example, the Hamayel, and so it's just part of our roots that we maintain throughout throughout the history.
Well, good. Well, I don't know, man. I'm excited about getting together. So we're going to get together every Sunday, and we're probably going to try to drop the podcast every Wednesday based on like editing and things like that. And we're going to start doing some stuff on social media with TikTok and Instagram and our Facebook page. So right now, people can find us on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok at the Abed 11, and then on YouTube at the Abed 11. So we're going to try to upload things, and hopefully people will be interested and excited. And I know we're talking about us, but I think it sometimes resonates about a lot of families and what they go through. And we can talk about a lot of different things throughout the episodes. I think maybe the next episode people will be excited about, because we're going to get a chance to, I don't want to say roast each other, but at least tell stories or about each other, that first memories of each other. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, just the fact that I lived with all you guys except for Shadia. I never got to, and Shadia was always
man.
Yeah, Shadia was always scared of me. When I came to visit, she would be scared of me. She wouldn't even come to me. I mean, she was just a little baby, and she refused to come to me. She just didn't know who I was, And so, but anyway, just to kind of, you're on mute, Shadi.
You're on mute, Shadi.
Sorry. So like our age gap. So I'm the youngest. You're the oldest. I'm 39. How old are you?
Yeah, I am 61.
So
my son he will be 37 next month. So he's only got like a 2-year difference between you and him.
Yeah. So our age gap was really big. So I don't even remember much of you growing up, because like you said, you never lived in the same house as me. So I remember more as I got older, but not when I was little, because our age gap is so huge.
Shadi, all you remember is when Jim used to bring the Christmas gifts. You used to be happy.
Yeah, I do remember Jim and Faisal bringing Christmas gifts. I do remember that.
Yeah.
And like
Christmas, we got Christmas gifts growing up. So
yeah, so I do want to say this. I know, I don't know if you guys know what kiting is, but I would write a check and deposit it in my account to get that money to go buy you stuff, and then knowing that my paycheck I could deposit my paycheck when I got it, like the next week. It's like 3 or 4 days. So I would go to the ATM machine, deposit $100 check or whatever I needed, and then go and buy the gifts. for you guys. And it was kind of but it was fun. My wife and I before I did it when I was single, but I also did it also after my wife and I got married, and we would do it together. And because she
Yeah,
was
that
better.
would
Yeah.
that will be something else we'll have to talk about, how we did celebrate Christmas when we were little, even though that's not in our religion to celebrate it. But, Faisal and Jim, they married out of the culture. And I don't know if that was part of it or we just did it because we're in America or whatever. But now we don't celebrate Christmas except for Faisal and Jim.
Well, now let me tell you something. We actually, when we were younger, we lived in like Arlington, and then we moved to Fairfax. Actually, the church would bring us gifts. I don't know if you guys remember that or not.
Oh yeah, it used to bring the boxes to the porch, front porch.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, they used to bring, honestly. So,
Yeah.
and then when I was a kid, I would watch those shows where Santa Claus would come through the chimney. But we lived in a duplex. We didn't have a chimney. I'm trying to think of how Santa Claus going to come in our house, And
Yeah.
Yeah.
got to give you, because the things. But you know what? We attended Baptist church. I don't know if you remember, or Jamal.
Oh yeah, we used to go Baptist church, sitting there and listen to them, and the lady used to take us there all the time.
Yep. They came, picked us up,
Yeah.
and took us to Baptist church. And so I guess what I'm trying to say, when I talked to Siti one time about Sayyidina Isa, which is Jesus.
So Siti means grandma.
Huh?
Siti means grandma for everyone watching. It means grandma.
My grandmother. And I would ask her about, Jesus or Sayyidina Isa. And she said he was a Muslim, right? Well, I said, well, Islam wasn't even part of, it wasn't there when Jesus Christ was here. So later on, I found out that, Muslim means you submit to God's will. So Jesus and all the other prophets did submit to God's will, and so it's just and since my parents, now you understand, my parents come from the Beira, Ramallah at the time was mostly Christian, so they did celebrate, but they celebrated Orthodox Christian, most of them, for the Greek Orthodox Church.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Well, so that'd be a great other stories, and that's what I think is going to be neat about this, is that we're going to hear stories, because you think about it, I'm the middle child. Between me and my brother Todd is 5 years, so that was a big gap of time that we're going to hear about things like Shadia says. She don't know a lot of those things growing up because she is the youngest and there's a big age gap. I think that's going to be one of the neatest things, that we're all going to learn something that we don't know about it. So I'm excited. I know. Anybody else have anything to say? Because
just real quick, Reed. You talk about Christmas gifts. The best Christmas gift that I ever got from Jim was a Broncos jacket. It was a blue Broncos jacket.
We don't want to know what happened to it. No, don't tell anybody what happened to it.
I'm not going to say what happened to it, but it was a blue Broncos jacket, and the inside it was all orange. Okay. And we'll just leave it there for a cliffhanger. What happened to that jacket?
I don't know if that's going to be people want to hear, but all right. Anybody else have anything to say? I know the storyteller are going to get a lot of chances today to tell any stories, but
I have I have a lot of Wally stories growing up, because he graduated 87, I graduated 88, and I have some funny stories, about when we went to summer camp. And I'll talk about that later. But I have a funny story about when we had the store with my mom. So we all chipped in. Y'all got me a shirt, and it said Todd on it. And it was like y'all got it made for me. And I used to wear that shirt all the time. And one day it disappeared. So I was like, I wonder what happened to the shirt. It just disappeared. And one day a customer walks in wearing the shirt. And I was like, where'd you get that shirt from? He's like, oh, your mom gave me a bag full of clothes. This was in it. So he gave away the shirt. That was my favorite shirt. Y'all had it custom made with my name on it.
Oh, we'll get you a new one, buddy. We'll get you a new one.
We'll get you a new one, Todd. We'll get you a new one.
Hey, I know, I was just saying that's the way it was growing up. But I do have a lot of funny Wally stories.
Yeah.
Because me and him did share bunk beds. Like, we talk about that. We have bunk beds. And then the story that Jim talked about the night he passed away, about that, we'll talk about that when we have more time. But that is a true story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
good. Well,
So and just to kind of talk. Yeah. So Shadi, you're right. You're gonna learn a lot because you're the youngest. I'm the oldest, and I've been blessed. Got with a good memory. I think the reason is our culture is that way. Our culture, a lot of them weren't able to write. Even my grandmother would have somebody write letters because back in the day, it was the letters that came from overseas that were a big deal. We all sat around and listened to these letters, but it wasn't written by hand by my grandmother. Somebody would write it for her, and somebody would actually teach her the scriptures too. I mean, they would teach her about the Quran, and she paid somebody to do that, and she was a hedge. So, anyways, we'll go over a lot of these stories. We'll be happy to.
I'm excited. I'm excited to learn about all this stuff because I
Yeah.
never really lived with you or Faisal. I never, Faisal, I don't remember living with you either. So I lived with Jamal a little bit after he got married, but don't have a lot. So, knowing these stories, I'm excited to learn about them.
well, good. Well, I'm excited. So next, everybody, I think everybody's excited. I'm excited that we're all on board. I was afraid that somebody's going to think, I don't want to do it, Melissa. But now everybody's on board.
Look, I'm camera shy. I don't like to talk. That's all.
That's okay. We're going to get you to talk because you have some stories too. So with that said, guys, I want to thank everybody to be part of our first episode, the Abed 11 Chronicles, 10 voices, one podcast, and a lifetime of stories. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week. And please follow us on all of our social media. We'll post other things than just our podcast. We'll get into some funny stuff too at family events and kind of go from there. Abed 11, thank you very much and see you next time.
God bless.
Hey,
Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.